Welcome to today's tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to knit cables, but specifically how to knit cables without a cable needle. When I first heard that you can knit cables without a cable needle, I didn't think I needed to know how to do that. I didn't have a problem using a cable needle. It didn't bother me, so I thought, why learn how to knit cables without a cable needle? And then I tried it, and I haven't used my cable needles since. I can't even tell you where they are. I always knit cables without a cable needle now. It is a little bit tricky for bigger cables, but for normal 4-stitch cables, which are most cables, or 6-stitch cables, or even 8-stitch cables, is perfectly doable. So today I'm going to show you how to do it and give you some tips for how to make it easier to knit cables without a cable needle. So I hope you enjoy today's video. If you are new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. So I can't find my cable needles because I never use them. So I've got a double point needle just so I can show you. It's a bit longer than a cable needle, like at least twice as long. But if you can't find a cable needle and you don't want to do it without a cable needle, then double point needle is fine. So the first one I'm going to do is a left crossing cable 2/2, which would be a C4F. So if I was using a cable needle, I would take 2 stitches on the cable needle, hold it at the front, knit the 2 from a knitting needle, and then knit the 2 from the cable needle. But doing it without the cable needle, I'm going to slip those 2 stitches purlwise. So the 2 I would hold at the front, I'm going to slip them purlwise to my right needle with the yarn at the back. So the yarn's at the back, but I'm slipping them purlwise. Then I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches. Me slipping them to the right hand needle is like putting them a hold at the front. So now they're at the front. My yarn is at the back. I've knitted the next 2 stitches. I'm now going to put my left needle into the front of those 2 stitches. So I just put it in from the left, like that. And then here comes the needle gymnastics, which is quite slightly scary. While you do this, do not pull on your working yarn. If you need to, let go of the working yarn, but do not pull on it. It doesn't matter if you knit English or continental style. I'm doing continental style because that's what I'm used to, but just don't pull on your working yarn because you will unravel the stitches you've knitted. So you're now going to very quickly, and I tend to use my thumb and my index finger on my left hand and kind of pinch the stitches to stop them unraveling. I'm going to go very quickly, and I'm going to do this in slow motion, but normally I do this much quicker. I'm going to pull my right needle out of those 4 stitches. So you can see now the 2 that I knitted are loose at the back here. And I'm going to put my needle into those 2 stitches quickly from the right, so they're still sitting the correct way on my needle. I haven't twisted them or anything like that. So now the 2 stitches I knitted are on my right needle, and the 2 stitches I held at the front are on my left needle. So I'm going to knit those 2. I'm going to show you how to do it again. I'm going to purl 2, and then I'm going to do another left crossing cable. The reason it's a left crossing cable is because it points to the left when you've crossed it. So I'm going to keep the yarn at the back, slip 2 stitches purlwise to the right hand needle. So when you're holding the cable needle at the front, the equivalent of that would be to slip the first 2 stitches to your right needle with the yarn at the back, so your stitches are in front of your working yarn. Then I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches like that. You can see I've got the strand behind here now. Then I'm going to put my left needle into those first 2 stitches from the left. It does help if you have pointy needles doing this. I'm using my Lantern Moon for this. Chagui works really well. I tried it with my liquor needles, which are a lot blunter, but I do prefer this pointy needle tip. I was fine doing the 4-stitch cables with this, but I tried an 8-stitch cable with the liquor needles, and that was a lot more difficult. So pointy needles are a good idea for this. Okay, so I got my left needle into the front of those 2 stitches that I slipped. I'm going to pull my right needle out. You notice my working yarn is relaxed and I'm just pinching below my needles. I'm going to pull my needle out. So those 2 stitches are now in free air, and then push them back onto there. So now the 2 stitches are knitted are on my right needle, and you can see it crosses over here, and I can knit those 2 stitches that I slipped. So what a cable basically is knitting your stitches out of order. So in a 4-stitch cable, you knit stitch 3 and 4, and then you knit stitch 1 and 2. Now we're going to do a right crossing cable, or C4 back, and that's because if I was holding this with a cable needle, I would be holding my stitches at the back on the cable needle. So to get the same effect, I need to take my yarn to the front and then slip the next 2 stitches purlwise. The yarn to the front, slip the next 2 stitches purlwise, and then I take my yarn to the back again. So you can see now it crosses in front of those 2 stitches. And then I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches. You can still see the working yarn is crossing in front of those 2. And then I tilt my needles forward so I can see the back of my knitting. And I have to make sure for this that the yarn is in front of my left needle tip. You can actually just take it to the front and let go of it. And then again, you don't want to pull on this yarn, so it's easier just take it to the front and let go of it. Put your needle into the back of the 2 stitches you slipped. So you go into the back from the left. And then you're going to pull the right needle tip out of all 4 stitches and push it back into the 2 stitches you knitted. Twist it around, take your working yarn to the back again and knit those 2 stitches. I'll show you that again in a minute. I'm going to purl 2 stitches, and then I'm going to do another left crossing cable because I have this hourglass cable in the middle. Left crossing cable, hourglass, hourglass, right crossing cable. So we're going to do a left crossing cable again now. So yarn at the back, slip the first 2 stitches purlwise to the right needle tip, knit the next 2, put your left needle into the front of those 2 stitches from the left. Apologies if you can hear Alfie walking around behind me, and apologies if you heard any noise from the kitchen. My husband's just come downstairs to make breakfast and it was taking too long, so I decided to start filming. I'm going to pull my right needle tip out of those 4 stitches and push it back into those first 2 stitches I've already knitted without pulling on the working yarn. And then I'm going to knit those 2 that I just slipped. Like that. And then we can do a right crossing cable again. So this time we would normally hold the stitches at the back. So I'm going to take the yarn to the front, slip 2 stitches purlwise through the right needle, take the yarn between the needles, so it crosses in front of those 2 stitches, knit 2, tilt my knitting over, put my left hand needle into the back of those 2 stitches that we slipped, and then I'm going to pull my needle out quickly and put it back into those 2 loose stitches. If that first one or last one you knitted unravels, just put it back on your, so if it comes out like that, just pick it up with your right needle tip, put it on your left needle, and then knit it before you knit the 2 that you slipped. Like that, and then I'm going to purl 2, then I'm going to do one final right crossing cable. So yarn at the front, slip 2 stitches purlwise, yarn to the back, knit 2, tilt your knitting forward, put your needle into the back of those 2 slip stitches, pull your working needle out and into those 2 stitches that you've knitted, and then knit those 2. And then I'm just going to knit the last 2 edge stitches to finish the row. That's what it looks like. I think I did between those 2 cable crossings. I actually think I did 2 rows less than I did down here, but that doesn't matter. I made this up as I was sitting in the garden yesterday knitting this swatch. This is fairly easy to do on 4-stitch cables. I have done it on 8-stitch cables and 12-stitch cables. The 12-stitch cables, the number 12, 4, 8, whatever it is the number of total stitches in your cable. So this cable is 4 stitches, and this bigger cable in the middle is 8 stitches, but it's divided into 2 4-stitch cables. The most I've done is the 12-stitch cable, I think. And that's 6 stitches over 6 stitches. So that is a lot more challenging. But because I'm so used to doing cables without a cable needle, I couldn't be bothered to try and dig out my cable needle because I have no idea where they are. And using a thin double point needles, which is like sock knitting size, 2.5 millimeter. Because I don't use my cable needles, it's just easier for me to do cables without a cable needle. But anything bigger than a 12, I would probably get my cable needles out or get a new one if I can't find them. If you're using a yarn that's very slippery or very splitty, it might be more difficult to cable without a cable needle. But good needle tips with pointy needle tips is key. It makes a big difference, especially when you have the bigger cables. So my favorite ones are Chagu. They're my #1 favorite. Lantern Moon I really like because they're very pointy. These are the same needles basically as the Nipro Symphony. They're just made of different wood. Lantern Moon is owned by Nipro. They, as far as I know, they're made in the same factory. They have exactly the same points. It's just I quite like these because they feel a bit more luxurious. But Nipro Symphony are a more affordable version of these. Nipro Zing are quite pointy. Nipro Carbons are quite pointy, and Nipro Symphony are basically the same as the Lantern Moon. If you're interested in different needles and my thought on them, I do have several videos on my YouTube channel reviewing several needle makes. So I mainly review circular needles or interchangeable needles because that's all I use. But I have reviewed loads of needle brands, several of the Nipro needles. Oh, the Nipro Mindful collection as well are very nice and pointed. They're metal ones. I reviewed several Nipro needles. I have one on like a general Nipro needle review, and then I have a separate one on the Mindful collection. I have reviewed Chaogu, Lykke, Lantern Moon, Sea Knit, which is bamboo, very nice. Prim ergonomic needles. Higher. I think that's it, but I can't remember. I have a circular needles and needle review playlist on my channel. I will try and remember to link it at the end of this video and also link it in the notes and description below this video. If not, if I forget, then just go to my YouTube channel and click on playlist and you'll find it there. There's a video on how to knit in the round using long circular needles when you have enough stitches to fill a whole circular needles, magic loop and traveling loop. That is in that playlist, and then there's all the different needle reviews I've done and how to choose your favorite knitting needles and which ones are my favorite. So do go and check that out if you're interested. If you have any questions about cabling without a cable needle, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you tried to knit cables without the cable needle and what you thought of it. Would you do it again? Would you not do it again? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.